Come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off, because today I'll be reviewing and paging through Alien, the role-playing game starter set from Free League Publishing. So is this an excellent introduction into role-playing in the Alien film universe? Or will this box set simply reduce you to crying out, "Game over, man! Game over!" Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I'm going to be reviewing Alien, the role-playing game starter set in just a moment. But first, I do want to remind you that if you like this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And of course, if you do subscribe, ring that notification bell, because it'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this, it'll also tell you when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And lastly, do want to mention the fine folks over at Free League Publishing did provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to provide my thoughts about this box set. Speaking of the box set, it is Alien, the role-playing game starter set from Free League Publishing. It's written by Tomas Härenstam. I know, I always get Tomas's name. I mispronounce it all the time. Do want to also mention the included adventure Chariot of the Gods is written by Andrew E.C. Gaska. Art and graphic design is provided by Martin Grip, Gustav Ekelund, John R. Mulaney, and Axel Torvenius. Doing my best on the pronunciations. This box set is available right now, does carry an MSRP of $49.99. You can pick it up in PDF at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. And I should also mention, the Gaming Gang is an affiliate of the One Bookshelf site. So if you are going to swing over to, say, Drive-Thru RPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads, and that way, if you do happen to make a purchase, we get a little tiny portion of that sale. And all those little tiny portions add up and help keep the Gaming Gang website around. All right, without further ado, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here we've got Alien, the role-playing game starter set. So this is a box set. I have to point out right off the bat, I was a little concerned about this starter set because I had previously reviewed the Tales from the Loop starter set from Free League Publishing. And of course, that was a starter set for an award-winning role-playing game, just like Alien. And I have to say, I was extremely overwhelmed by that starter set and actually couldn't even recommend making a purchase. That said, this is night and day compared to the Tales from the Loop starter set, and we will see why. I'm going to jump in the box in just a moment, but first, I do want to point out a few things that do come in this box. I took them out of the box because I was holding up in front of the camera. I didn't want all this stuff jingling around. So we've got the standard dice. These are 6-sided dice. They are cut, very nicely done. And of course, on the 6th side, we will see that there's a special symbol here, because this game does utilize the Free League Publishing Year 1 engine, which is die pool based. You're using 6-sided dice, and you succeed if you roll a 6. So we've got a bunch of the base dice. We also have these yellow dice, which are stress dice. This is a new mechanic that has been added into the Year One engine. And I will explain all this as we get into the review. But these dice are also cut. We also have that symbol on the 6, but we also have this face hugger symbol on it as well for the 1s. And that indicates having to make a panic roll. So these are the dice that come with it. And we also get some cards, which I will actually show closer up. But we do have a deck of cards. These are various different cards that are going to be utilized for different things. So we will take a look at these cards. We'll actually get a closer look in just a bit. I didn't have them in the box because, once again, I was holding the box up to begin this review, and I did not want everything like kind of like jingling around inside. So not only do we have the dice, we have the deck of cards, we have a rule book. This is a 104-page rule book. We have a two-sided map. On one side, we will have a map of kind of the universe. And then on the other side, we'll have a map that we're going to utilize in the included adventure, which is right here, is Chariot of the Gods, written by Andrew E.C. Gaska. This has been available standalone in PDF. So I do want to mention that this had been out for a bit, but it is included with the starter set. This is a cinematic adventure. I'll discuss the difference between the campaign and cinematic. So we've got that. We've got some pre-gen characters. So we've got 5 pre-generated characters. We'll take a look at those as we talk about the adventure. And then we've got some tokens representing humans and marines and various different neomorphs and xenomorphs and some informational counters as well. So that is what we find inside the box. First thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to dive on into the rule book. So let me move these things out of the way. And we jump on in. So as I mentioned, it's 104 pages. And as I kind of started off this review, I did mention that I was a little concerned because that Tales from the Loop starter set really only had about 36 pages of gameable material, and that was between the little rule book and the adventure. This has got loads of material. Do want to mention that this starter set, this rule book, is kind of a condensed rule book as opposed to the core book that has been out for a bit and which was the big award winner. It won a big Any Award. It's won awards from various different organizations as well. But this only really focuses on the one-shots, on the cinematic adventures. So with this starter set, you can run not only Chariot of the Gods, but also the box set adventure, which is Destroyer of Worlds, which I actually have a copy of and I will be reviewing in the near future. So the book basically kind of starts off, gives us some bite-sized chunks of information about the alien universe. It's not tons and tons of information. It's just what you basically need to have kind of a bit of an understanding about to be able to effectively run the game. Of course, obviously enough, having seen the films or maybe even read some of the comics will be important as well. There are 4 different careers that are discussed: colonists, space truckers, colonial marines, and company reps. Talking about role-playing. The game master is called the game mother in this. Personally, I think the title is a little silly, but I understand where it comes from. If you've seen, say, Alien, the computer system is known as Mother, so I do get it. It's easier for you to just say Game Master GM. So as I mentioned, we've got the cinematic play, we've got the campaign play. Some of the cinematic play will actually have their own special rules for specific adventures that might be released. As of this point, the 2 adventures that have been released for Alien, the role-playing game, are cinematic. They are not campaign games. If you are interested in running a campaign game set in the Alien universe, then you need to have the core rule book, not the starter set. So it talks about some of the key themes to Alien. So it's science fiction horror, a sense of wonder, exploration. So we get a bit of information about the characters. There are only 4 attributes in the game: strength, agility, wits, and empathy. There are a dozen skills that you'll have. So it talks about your health, talks about stress, personal agendas, and story points. I find very, very interesting. We will talk about that in a little more depth when we discuss the adventure. Talking about gear. One aspect of Alien, the role-playing game, that might be a little different for some role players is your resource management, for the most part, is kind of abstracted. If you're familiar with a game such as, say, The Black Hack, which is a fantasy role-playing game, it's an OSR game, but it's very, very rules light. It sort of runs the same way. You're not ticking off every round of ammo and things like that. You'll actually be rolling dice, and your dice pool will decrease as you utilize or use up any particular resource. So we've got the 12 skills, talking about success and failure. As I mentioned before, this is a dice pool game. You're not going to have tons and tons of dice to be rolling, but all you need is a 6 to succeed. If you roll additional 6s, you can kind of play off that, wow, you really pulled that off really, really well. As I mentioned, we do have stress also, and you'll gain stress in a few different ways. The 2 main ways are pushing your rolls. So let's say, for an example, I had only 2 dice in my dice pool, and I'm rolling to succeed at a task, and there you go, a 1 and a 2. Well, I can push my roll. It will gain me a stress die. So I would get to re-roll. Let's hope I get a 6, right? Nope. Still failed. I suck. But now I would also have a stress die that's added to my pool. An interesting aspect about the game is, as you gain these stress dice, your chance to succeed increases, basically enough. But your chance to mess something up increases as well. So here we've got, I wanted to flip back. It's showing your chance of success based upon the number of dice which are in your dice pool. This is something that we see a lot in the year 1 engine games, where it kind of gives you an idea. Okay, so, well, if you got 1 die available to you, your chance of success is about 17%. If you push it, your success level goes to about 29%, but still not very good. This is actually a pretty rules-light game. There's not a ton of crunch going on in the game as well. There are some modifications, so basically bonuses and penalties, depending on various aspects. So, for an example, in ranged combat, if you have an aimed shot, you'll actually gain bonus dice. Then again, if you're at, say, long range, you'll actually lose dice. We also have opposed rolls, which are pretty simple. It's simply that, you're rolling your dice, and whoever has the most successes is actually going to come out on top. So here we get into some of the skills. Like I said, they're very, very broad. Some people may not like the fact that there's a lot of abstraction kind of in the game system itself, especially with the task resolution as well as combat. But the reality is, I found this to be very, very nicely done. I don't need tons and tons of crunch in my game. I guess maybe that's because I'm an older gamer now. I don't necessarily want to sit there and spend 2 hours role-playing 1 combat. So there is a stealth element to the game as well. We have 2 kinds of combat. We've got close combat as well as ranged combat. And essentially, it's fairly easy. what you're looking at is if you succeed, then based upon whatever weapon you're utilizing, that'll tell you what your damage is. Of course, there's armor that's possible as well. You can be broken. We do have some critical injuries as well that are pretty cool. I have to point out that I am not familiar with every single game that utilizes the Year One engine, but I think this is the first time I've encountered critical hit tables. We have permanent mental trauma. Remember, this is at its essence, Alien, and the Alien films are horror science fiction. So here we're talking about the stress and panic. You have a panic roll. So when you have these additional stress dice that are added to your pool, if you roll that one that has the face hugger on it, now you have to roll panic. And you'll actually roll a D6 and add the number of additional dice you have, which is considered your stress level, to your panic roll. And it could be just, you're fine, you're okay. You could be freezing, oh my God, I'm panicking and I can't do anything. You might collapse onto the floor, catatonic. All these various different things. You can relieve stress as well. So you can actually remove stress dice from your pool by essentially taking a break, regrouping. But I got to point out, as these adventures will, kind of get into the nitty gritty and really start getting to the point where there's a lot of tension, a lot of stress, you're probably not going to have a lot of opportunities to bleed off these stress dice, essentially. One aspect of the game that's pointed out as well is that you really should not be rolling dice constantly. And that's kind of interesting because, of course, in role-playing games, a lot of people love rolling their bones, right? But with the stress system that's involved in the game, if you're constantly rolling dice and having to push rolls, it's going to throw things out of whack. You're going to start getting stress dice that you really shouldn't be adding into your pool. So essentially, things that, the average person can do, or somebody who is trained in, say, for an example, a skill that could possibly be related to what they're attempting to do, if it's something fairly simple, don't bother rolling dice. All right, so then we get into weapons and armor. So we get some images of the different weapons. I thought that was very cool that we get that. We've got some heavy weapons as well. Talking about close combat weapons. Other equipment as well. And we finish up talking about food and drink. So you'll notice there wasn't really any sort of a bestiary that's talking about the various different aliens. Well, that is essentially because this is set for running the cinematic adventures. So all that information will be found within the cinematic adventures. So we're going to take a look at Chariot of the Gods in just a second. I do want to show off the map here. This is really nice stock. This is actually a pretty good size as well. So we're going to kind of move this around a little bit so you can see it much better. So we've got the Union of Progressive Peoples, the Three World Empire, the Independent Core System Colonies, the United Americas, and the Frontier. So I thought this was very cool. Although the reality is, I don't know how useful this really is, especially in a starter set. But on the other side, we are going to have maps of the ships that are involved in the starter adventure Chariot of the Gods. So we have the USCSS Cronus, which is a scientific exploratory vessel. So there we go. We've got that. So taking a peek here. Like I said, really nice cardstock. One thing I would have really liked to have seen in this starter set, and it didn't have to be anything really, special. It didn't have to be specially treated or anything like that. I would have liked to have seen a bit of a Game Master screen, because there are charts. There are quite a few different tables that you're going to utilize while you play. And to be honest, I could have taken a pass on this star system map. And maybe if they had made the ship map a little smaller, maybe we could have gotten, even if it was just kind of a landscape, right? Kind of a landscape Game Master screen. That would have been very, very helpful. Or even a handout which would have the important tables. Otherwise, you're kind of flipping back and forth throughout the book, and that can be a bit of a pain. So just a small quibble, not a huge one. So Chariot of the Gods, as I mentioned before, this adventure had been out in PDF, so you could get it by itself. It is part of the starter set. I'm going to try to keep this relatively spoiler-free. I know you're going to see some items in this. But if you are a player, and hopefully you're going to have a GM who's going to run Alien, the role-playing game, and this adventure, I would say head on out now. So, all right, so we're going to jump in. So one of the aspects I really do like about Alien, the role-playing game, is the concept of personal agendas, hidden agendas, and it plays in very nicely for the cinematic adventures. Because, basically think about it. If you've seen the Alien movies, which I have to assume you have, because I don't know why you'd be super interested in this role-play game if you have not. But think of all the twists throughout all the various different movies. Well, that is where we get these personal agendas. So we get the situation. So essentially what's going on is the player characters are the crew of the USCSS Montero, which is a freighter. And they are in cryogenic sleep. They are awakened to find themselves in an area of space that they had absolutely no plans of being in. And it turns out that this other ship, the Cronus, had been sending out a distress signal. So the players are tasked with having to explore the USCSS Cronus to find out what exactly is going on. I'm just going to flip through here very quickly. This adventure is more of the style of, say, the Alien prequels that Ridley Scott has come out with in recent years, as opposed to, say, a straight-out Alien adventure. So the xenomorphs that you are used to seeing actually do not make an appearance. But that does not mean that this is not a cool adventure. For the most part, these cinematic adventures are kind of one-shots, but just because they're one-shots does not mean that they are going to be done in a single session. Something like Chariot of the Gods is probably going to take you 2 to 3 sessions in order to play it. And I got to point out, there are a lot of obstacles to the players within this adventure, and especially with those personal agendas as well that the player characters will have. So we get some talents. So these are, remember I had mentioned that some of these cinematic adventures will have kind of their own rules or have some additional rules to them. Here we've got these special talents. All in all, 48 pages for Chariot of the Gods. We do have some pre-generated characters as well. So what I will do here is I am actually going to zoom in a little bit give you a better look at the character sheets, and then I'll show you those cards. So essentially, these are the player characters. There are 5. There are a good number of NPCs as well in Chariot of the Gods. And that's important because what will happen is, come on, it's the Alien franchise, right? It's the Alien universe. So not every player character is going to survive to the end. So it is possible that if you have player characters who, buy the farm, you could conceivably replace them with an NPC from the other ship's crew. That said, you don't have character sheets for them. So we've got 5. We have 5 different pre-generated characters. Also, one aspect of the Alien role-playing game that I will point out that you probably want to keep in mind, because the world is so deadly, and I mean, if you're going up against aliens, you're probably not going to survive. Probably really does fit much better having pre-generated characters that the players have not necessarily become very attached to. So just kind of give you a look there. All right, so then we've got different cards here. So we've got a deck of 10 cards that are initiative cards. So we've got 1 through 10. And essentially what will happen in combat, the GM is going to shuffle these up and deal everybody, each of the player characters, as well as NPCs, one of these cards. And then combat will be resolved in the order of the cards. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting is you're only going to get an initiative card once per combat, but it is possible to trade your initiative card with another player. So I thought that was kind of cool, kind of interesting. So I like that. So we've got that. So we also have some cards here that are going to give us the information about the various different weapons. So if you take a look on the back, whoops, flip that back over like so. So we've got a few of these. So we've got the various different weapons. We'll point out that there are not multiple copies. So if characters, more than one character has the same weapon, they're kind of sharing a card. But I did like the fact that we've got these equipment cards to kind of show the players what do these weapons look like, instead of just having to, show them from the game book. So then we got the NPCs. So we've got cards for each of the important NPCs here. I like that. I thought that was kind of cool. Kind of shared, okay, so that's what the NPC looks like. And then we've got the information on the back. So, like I said, it's very easy to replace a fallen player character with one of these NPCs. The only thing is that there are no pre-generated character sheets. So you could get a blank character sheet and just fill it out. So there we have the NPCs. And then we've got the agendas for each of the player characters. So each of the player characters actually have an agenda for each act of the adventure. The adventure is broken into 3 acts. So we have, what is their agenda? Act 1, agenda Act 2, and agenda Act 3. So we have this for all 5 of the player characters, the pre-gens. So very, very cool. And then we actually have some other information to give to the players if something specific happens to them. Like I said, I do want to try to keep the adventure kind of spoiler free, but I like this aspect as well, where it's like, okay, well, here you go. Now you got this card. Player takes a look at it and they go, oh, okay, so all right, so that's what I got to do. One thing I will mention with these personal agendas, it's going to be important that your players role play. This isn't really designed for gamers out there who are like, well, you know, my player character is essentially, what would I do as a barbarian in the Forgotten Realms? No, you have to be able to have some role players around the table to really get the most out of Chariot of the Gods. That said, I got to say that these personal agendas really go a long way to beefing up the adventure and making it cinematic, right? Making it like you're in the midst of playing a movie. All right, so let's go through and real quickly finish up. I will show you the tokens. I mean, nothing super exciting, but kind of give you an idea of what these look like. They are dual-sided. Just like so. So as I mentioned, we've got some Colonial Marines. We've got just regular crew. We've got some different aliens as well. And some informational tokens as well. So we've got the tokens. We've got the dual-sided map and layout of the ship. We've got the 5 pre-generated characters. We've got the adventure, Chariot of the Gods. We've got the 104-page rule book. We've got the various different cards, as well as all of the custom dice. And that's what we find inside Alien, the role-playing game starter set from Free League Publishing. So we're going to swing on over to the other camera. I am going to provide my final thoughts and give this a review score. I would take a guess you've probably come to the conclusion that, see, now you can hear why I took the dice and the cards out, right? Right. Hey, everybody, today I'll be looking at all the dice and stuff flying around. Anyway, I'm sure you can tell I really do like Alien, the role-playing game, this starter set. This box set is excellent. Really, really nicely done. Halloween is right around the corner. And I can tell you, if you are looking for something a little bit different to run for your players outside of, you know, your standard role-playing game that maybe you get together every week for, every couple of weeks, I can't recommend Alien, the role-playing game, high enough. If you're looking for something a little different to really be something cool for Halloween, keeping in mind that adventure is going to take 2 to 3 sessions to play out, unless you play long sessions. Most people play for about 4 hours, so that's why I figured 2 to 3, probably closer to 3, to get that adventure in. I do have some minor quibbles. I do wish that there was some sort of either a game master screen, or I should say game mother screen, or even just a kind of a reference chart that was provided, because there are quite a few tables that are utilized in the game. You're going to have to reference back and forth into the game book itself. That's kind of a drag. But other than that, I mean, I really do think this is really, really well put together. I know some people out there would like much more crunchy rules, especially for, say, like the stealth aspects or combat. But once again, it's Free League Publishing. Free League tends to have, with their year one engine, it's fairly light and easy to come to grips with. Something else I do want to point out, it's important to remember, don't always be rolling dice. Don't look at this role-playing game the same way as you do, say, Pathfinder or D&D, where you're constantly rolling dice for things. This system isn't designed like that because of those stress dice and pushing your rolls. So keep that in mind. If you start just everybody's got, 4 or 5 stress dice and hardly anything has happened, you're running the game wrong. Really can't see why people were just crowing about the Alien core book that came out. Unfortunately, I have not seen it. Sammy did review it for the Gaming Gang, but I personally have not encountered it. Fingers crossed, maybe the fine folks over at Free League Publishing will send that along. So if you are looking for a cool science fiction horror game, it's set in the Alien universe. You could tweak it to make it your own as well. But I gotta say, if you're looking for a cool science fiction horror role-playing game, you could do a lot worse than Alien, the role-playing game starter set. I give this box set a very, very solid 9 out of 10. It is that good. Like I said, just some minor quibbles, and I do really wish that there was some sort of a reference chart or Game Master screen included in the box. Once again, you can pick this up. This is out now as everything flies around again. It is available right now. It does carry an MSRP of $49.99. You can snag the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All right, so that is it for this time out. Let me once again remind you, if you enjoy this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that notification bell, because not only will it let you know when I upload videos such as this, it also lets you know when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs right here on YouTube Monday through Thursday nights as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, so as I've been wrapping up all of my videos during this never-ending pandemic, let me hope that you are out there being smart and staying safe. I'll see you next time. Oh, you're still here. Well, once again, thank you very much for watching this video. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, click right here. And of course, if you want to see one of the latest episodes of the Daily Dope, click right on up here. And if you want to roll the dice, take your chances, see what YouTube thinks you might like from the channel, give a click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I'll see you next time.